But when the day began with rain and showed no sign of letting up, there was no alternative but to drag all the trestle tables and chairs in from the street and quickly decorate the village hall. There was a suggestion that the bunting put up the previous day should be used for this, but it was dripping wet and too difficult to get down. Considering that all the new decorations for the hall were borrowed Christmas ones, and many were past their best, it looked quite jolly. Brenda thought that, after all Molly's efforts, it was churlish of so many of the adults to stay at home, merely sending their children to the hall for Molly and anyone else who was mug enough to be willing to entertain them. But those adults were missing out on seeing 45 children between the ages of 2 and 14 staring wide-eyed at the spread before them. After years of deprivation, both during and since the war, the government had given everyone a very welcome, bigger sugar ration because of the coronation. The village women had pulled out all the stops to flaunt their cake-making skills. Most of the younger children here today, born during the war or since, wouldn't even have known their mothers were capable of baking such wonders. The fancy dress competition had created almost as much excitement and competitiveness. Looking around, Brenda could see several queens, King Arthur, the Pope, a pearly king, and a Queen of Hearts playing card. The latter was finding it hard to reach around her stiff card costume to eat her sandwiches, and Brenda predicted that the costume would be torn off before long. There had also been a competition for the best village shop window display. Molly should have won it for her effort at Heywood's, the grocery shop, but of course she wasn't allowed to win, not when the competition had been her idea. It was marvellous. The centrepiece was a big plaster of Paris cow she'd found in a shed. She'd painted it white, made a crown out of card and tinsel with fruit gums for jewels, and draped it with a purple coronation cloak. Then, in straw all around it, she'd invitingly placed various British food items: a large cheddar cheese, baskets of eggs, punnets of local strawberries, stone flagons of cider and pots of jam, marmalade, chutney and honey. But right now, Molly didn't look a bit happy. She may have been responsible for the glee on the children's faces, but she was worrying about the one child who was missing. "Cheer up, Molly," Brenda said, slinging her arm around the girl. "You know Cassie is a law unto herself. She'll have taken Petal somewhere else, somewhere more exciting maybe. She's too good a mother to just sit indoors and look at the rain." Brenda had always had a soft spot for Molly. There was something about her sweet country girl face, rosy cheeks, soft blue eyes and lovely smile that brightened any day. She was the reason Heywood's grocery shop was always busy. She was warm, funny, and a great listener, too. Jack Heywood believed the shop's success was because of him, but in truth, if Molly ever left, he'd lose most of his customers overnight. "She wouldn't do that, Brenda," Molly said with a shake of her head. "She spent days making Petal's costume, and even if she hadn't done, she would have come just to support me, as I organised the party." Brenda remembered how everyone had talked when Cassandra March arrived in Sawbridge village 2 years earlier. They had looked at the voluptuous redhead with deep suspicion. She wore no wedding ring and had a half-caste 4-year-old girl in tow. That the child was called Petal only raised more eyebrows. After all, what sort of person would give their child such a name? "She'll be a whore," Jack Heywood announced that night in the Pied Horse, and even though Brenda firmly believed that you should never label anyone before getting to know them, she had to admit that the woman's flaming red hair, pencil skirt, tight sweater, high heels and excessive makeup conformed to the image of a fallen woman. No one had imagined Cassandra March would want to stay in the village. It was assumed she'd come to see someone here and that, once that was done, she'd leave. But to everyone's amazement, she began looking for a place to rent. It was no real surprise that Molly befriended her.